Okay, so I'm going to be reading the Wilderness Journeys. These are the journeys of the children of Israel, who went out of the land of Egypt by their armies under the hand of Moses and Aaron. Now Moses wrote down the starting points of their journeys at the command of the Lord. And these are the journeys according to their starting points. They departed from Ramesses in the first month, on the 15th day of the first month. On the day after the Passover, the children of Israel went out with boldness in the sight of all the Egyptians. For the Egyptians were bearing all their firstborn, whom the Lord had killed among them. Also, on their gods the Lord had executed judgments. Then the children of Israel moved from Ramesses and camped at Succoth. They departed from Succoth and camped at Etham, which is on the edge of the wilderness. They moved from Etham and turned back to Pi Hahiroth, which is east of Baal Shephon, and they camped near Migdol. They departed from before Hahiroth and passed through the midst of the sea into the wilderness, went 3 days' journey in the wilderness of Etham, and camped at Marah. They moved from Marah and came to Elim. At Elim were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, so they camped there. That sounds pretty nice. I'd be like, is it cool we just stay here? I mean, Hawaii, or just kidding. They moved from Elim and camped by the Red Sea. They moved from the Red Sea and camped in the wilderness of Sin. They journeyed from the wilderness of Sin and camped at Dophkah. They departed from Dophkah and camped at Alush. They moved from Alush and camped at Rephidim, where there was no water for the people to drink. So that's when they started griping and moaning. They departed from Rephidim and camped in the wilderness of Sinai. They moved from the wilderness of Sinai and camped at Kibroth Hattava. They departed from Kibroth Hattava and camped at Hazeroth. They departed from Hazeroth and camped at Rithmah. They departed from Rithmah and camped at Rimmon Perez. They departed from Rimmon Perez and camped at Libnah. They moved from Libnah and camped at Rissah. They journeyed from Rissah and camped at Kehelathah. Say these names 3 times fast. I mean, you'd be like, woo, what a tongue twister. They went from Kehelathah and camped at Mount Shepher. They moved from Mount Shepher and camped at Haradah. They moved from Haradah and camped at Makaloth. They moved from Makaloth and camped at Tahath. They departed from Tahath and camped at Turah. They moved from Turah and camped at Mithkah. They went from Mithkah and camped at Hashmonah. They departed from Hashmonah and camped at Moseroth. They departed from Moseroth and camped at Ben Jachan. They moved from Ben Jachan and camped at Hor Haggidgad. They went from Haggadad and camped at Jotbatha. They moved from Jotbatha and camped at Abrona. They departed from Abrona and camped at Ezion-Geber. They moved from Ezion-Geber and camped in the wilderness of Zin, which is Kadesh. They moved from Kadesh and camped at Mount Hor, on the boundary of the land of Edom. Then Aaron the priest went up to Mount Hor at the command of the Lord, and he died there in the 40th year after the children of Israel had come out of the land of Egypt. 40 years. It did not have to be that long. But when people complain, they make things drag on. It's kind of like, okay, you're driving in the car with your parents and your kid, and every 30 minutes you're like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Okay. So eventually the parents are like, do I need to turn this car back around? You know? They moved from Kadesh and camped at Mount Hor on the boundary of the land of Edom. Then Aaron the priest went up to Mount Hor at the command of the Lord and died there in the 40th year after the children of Israel had come out of the land of Egypt on the first day of the 5th month. Aaron was 123 years old when he died on Mount Hor. I would love to live that long. That would be nice. Now the king of Arad, the Canaanite, who dwelt in the south in the land of Canaan, heard of the coming of the children of Israel. So they departed from Mount Hor and camped at Zalmonah. They departed from Zalmonah and camped at Punah. See, there were some people that they didn't really mess with. Some they warred with, but some they didn't mess with because they had nothing to do with where they were going. So if they're going this way and you're like way over here, they ain't gonna mess with you. Okay? They departed from Punon and camped at Oboth. They departed from Oboth and camped at Iji Abiram at the border of Moab. They departed from Ijim and camped at Dibon Gad. They moved from Dibon Gad and camped at Almon Diblathaim. They moved from Almon Diblathaim and camped in the mountains of Abarim before Nebo. They departed. Well, what about after Nebo? I'm just kidding. They departed from the mountains of Abarim and camped in the plains of Moab by the Jordan across from Jericho. They camped by the Jordan from Beth Jesimoth as far as the Abel Acacia Grove in the plains of Moab. Now the Lord spoke to Moses in the plains of Moab by the Jordan across from Jericho, saying, Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, When you have crossed the Jordan into the land of Canaan, then you shall drive out all the inhabitants of the land from before you. Destroy all their engraved stones. Destroy all their molded images. And demolish all their high places. Okay. You shall dispossess the inhabitants of the land and dwell in it, for I have given you the land to possess. So remember, because they're descendants of Abraham, okay? And you shall divide the land by lot as an inheritance among your families. To the larger you shall give a larger inheritance. To the smaller you shall give a smaller inheritance. There everyone's inheritance shall be whatever falls to him by lot. You shall inherit according to the tribes of your fathers. But if you do not drive out the inhabitants of the land from before you, then it shall be that those whom you let remain shall be irritants in your eyes. That doesn't sound good. And thorns in your sides, and they shall harass you in the land where you dwell. So God's giving them a warning here, like this was going to happen. Moreover, it shall be that I will do to you as I thought to do to them. So he didn't even do it to them, he just thought it. Okay? But he said, you do this, I will do it to you. So, but that's why when God tells you to do something, you better do it. But anyway. So, that's that. And I kind of know how it is to move around a lot. My parents were military, so they moved around all the time. So, they got out when I was relatively small, but even after they got out, we still moved around a lot. So I kind of grew up nomadic. So, I can relate to people that are like, lived here and there and everywhere, And as a kid, I hated it. Because as a kid, I thought like, man, can I just stay in one spot and get roots, But I'm glad that God had me in that situation as a kid because it taught me how to roll with the flow. Now, I've been in the same place for years and years and years. So, very thankful for that. But, if God said, hey, it's time to move, then we do it. But, God knows what he's doing. He ain't stupid. So, anyway, that's it.